Yes, we're going to do chapter 11. It's called The Vision for You. It's my favorite chapter to do with you guys. Here's why. Because everybody in here knows that truly, I want you to be clean and sober more than anything else. I want you to be the gift to your family that I am to mine. And like I say all the time, right, Brent? Who deserves you to be sober more than you?
My son.
And your wife. All right, guys. Please. So this is the thing. All I try to do is to relate you to this book, give you a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of hope, a little bit of my past, right? And I try to relate you to this book as much as possible. There isn't a ton of stuff in here, really. There is, but there's not as much as there is in chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. But still, there's going to be some really good stuff in here. And there even is the part in here where Bill figured out that step 12 is the thing that's going to keep him sober. Like there's a part in here where he's about 6 months sober and he's at a bar and he's about to like go to the bar and he's like, you know what, maybe I'll reach out and try to help somebody. And he does all that. So we're going to read this right before it even starts. Because this is what I want to... Yes, Kyle.
Is it called Flooded with Feeling?
No, it's called The Vision for You.
Vision for You. It's on page
151.
Okay.
151.
All right, thank you.
So here's the thing. Right in the beginning, right what Matthew's about to read, it says, in the beginning, guys, in the beginning, wasn't drinking or doing drugs or getting high or weed or whatever you were doing, wasn't it a way to connect with people and to have fun and to go to party, right?
Yeah.
And then in the end, what's it like?
Lonely.
Oh, God.
Isolation.
Yeah.
Solitude. Pain, yeah, it's none of that, right? Like, we really...
Hospital stay.
They call and you don't answer the phone.
Yeah.
'Cause you don't want to talk to them.
Yeah, or right, or you're calling them and they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, that's another one too.
Well, or you're calling them in a blackout, you know what I mean? You don't
Both
remember
ways.
your shit. Or they have Facebook out and you fucking gotta look at the next morning and you're like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
And then you want to drink.
but listen,
Yeah, because you're like,
but
oh,
listen.
fuck.
My point is, it's not why we started doing it in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We've completely
Got out of the window.
got out of pocket with it. You know what I mean? That's really what we did. All right, so go ahead. Matthew's going to read. I'm going to interrupt him a lot, but Matthew reads fast and he's got a strong voice.
I'm gonna read
So
slow.
pay attention. And guys, if there's a part in here that strikes you like a lightning bolt and you say, you know what, this is me. I did this. I'd like to hear from that because when you say that, or you say that, or you guys will learn more from you than you ever do from me. I want everybody in here. Let's stop the bullshit. Let's be vulnerable and honest and real. Let's be real. Like if you're sitting in treatment, life wasn't going so good. So let's do what we can. Like this whole thing, this whole chapter just describes what their vision for you is. And it really is to get clean, then get sober, work the steps, become the person that God wants you to be, and go through life with a complete different purpose. Feeling purposeful and good and comfortable with yourself and connected to God and to every human being. It says even somewhere in this here, he said, the broad highway is inclusive to all. Every single human being. Like I tell you guys all the time, every single human being is the most important human being on this earth, and that's how we should treat each other. And the ones that are sick and struggling like us, we deserve a little more attention. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right, good. So go ahead, Matthew. Thank you so much.
All right, chapter 11, A Vision for You. For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship, and colorful imagination. It means release from care, boredom, and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends and a feeling that life is good. But not so with us in those last days of heavy drinking. The old pleasures were gone. They were but memories. Never could we recapture the great moments of the past. There was an insistent yearning to enjoy life as we once did, and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and one more failure. The less people tolerated us, the more we withdrew from society, from life itself.
Well, with the less people tolerated, what does that mean? Like, what do they say to us?
They stop answering phones.
Well, because they're like, yo, you need to chill, you need to stop, you have a problem. And we're like, no, we don't, we're fine. This is our favorite one. I got this. Yeah, I'm fine. Worry about you.
Yeah.
And then they get kind of tired of it, right? Because listen, if someone loves you, they want the best for you. Right?
Yeah.
Anybody
Right.
in here have kids?
Yep.
Yeah.
If we watching our kids do what we did, we'd be mortified, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it talks about it, like, it's like watching them bash their head against the wall. And you're like telling them to stop. And they keep doing it over and over, because that's what we're doing. We're hurting ourselves over and over. And people are watching, and it breaks their heart. No? Am I wrong? Go ahead, John.
the daughter I talk about so much, she informs her brother, like he loves me to the heart, man. If I call him and say, I need $50, my cash app goes out. Bing.
Before you even get off the phone with him.
But I always send it back. And he asked my daughter, how come he keeps sending the money back that I'm sending him? I told him I didn't want it back. She told him because he gonna call you and ask you for some more.
You want to make sure we don't burn the bridge?
Yeah, you know, man, I went, no, you didn't tell. She said, yes, I did.
Hey, listen, that daughter of yours is going to save your life. You know why? She has no problem putting a mirror right up to your face. Because we need that, guys.
Is that what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. That's so, she has, what, how many kids she has?
3.
I told you, you need to be the world's greatest grandfather. Because I know you got it in you. Make that mug be true. All right, go ahead.
As we became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens of his mad realm, the chilling vapor that is loneliness settled down.
All right, real quick. Someone tell me what that means. What he just read. Someone tells me what that means.
Fine.
Shivering denizens in his mad realm.
He is going through detox.
No, alcohol is like
Ruling his life.
It's just everything. Every breathing, waiting. What'd you say?
I said, how did you get that out of
Go ahead, read that part again.
As we became subjects of King Alcohol,
So if we're
Okay.
if we're subjects, he owns us, right? Go ahead.
shivering denizens of his mad realm, the chilling vapor that is loneliness settled down.
And what did we just say? When we're using the way we're using, we're alone. Because listen to what I'm about to tell you. Nothing will block you off more from your people, God, and yourself than alcohol and drugs. It puts up a wall, right? How can you have any real meaningful connection with anybody? How can anybody truly, I mean, you can't, that wall is up there. It's just impossible, right? Am I wrong? Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
It thickened, ever becoming blacker. Some of us sought our sordid places, hoping to find understanding, companionship, and approval. Momentarily we did. Then would come oblivion and the awful awakening to face the hideous 4 horsemen. Terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair.
I mean, guys, is that what it's like to wake up and you have no more money for drugs, or you wake up and the liquor store is not open that day?
Like this. Why are you doing that?
Hey, listen, if this book, this is all I'm trying to do is relate you to this book, because this book will not only save your life, but it'll give you a different one. I mean, listen, it happened for me. It's happened for so many people I know. If I didn't believe in this, would I be here? I told you, I bet my kid's life on that book for you, and I love my kids. And that's it. Good.
Unhappy drinkers who read this page will understand. Now and then a serious drinker, being dry at the moment, says, I don't miss it at all, feel better, work better, having a better time. As ex-problem drinkers,
We laugh. We laugh at people like you. You know why?
we smile at such a sally. We knew our friend is like a boy whistling in the dark to keep up his spirits. He fools himself. Inwardly, he would give anything to take half a dozen drinks and get away with them.
Guys, I hear that all the time in here. I'm like, hey man, how you doing? You're like, great, I haven't thought about drinking in like 2 weeks. I'm like, that's fucking great, you're in here.
Yeah,
You're
right.
surrounded, you're in a good bubble. You're talking this recovery stuff, you've got a good... But everybody that's been in treatment before knows, Frank, tell them what it's like when you walk out of here.
You ready to go get high?
It's a different world,
You're
right?
at work.
It's
It's
like-
you don't even care what you learned in here.
It
You're
hits you like...
You just want to go get high. Like
It hits you like a sledgehammer. It hits you like a sledgehammer. You're like,
you're
oh
right
shit.
here all day, but it's really ain't.
Yeah, well, because here's the thing, and like I tell you guys all the time, here's our problem. Here's every single person's problem in here. We can't stay stopped.
We just want to feel better.
Well, we're in
We
pain.
want to go back.
Yeah, we're in pain, and we want to feel better. And not to mention, there's a physiological thing that you've actually changed your brain chemistry. Because I don't care if I ask everybody in here what's the most important thing. Most of you are going to say, my wife, husband, kids, job, this, that, the other thing. But do you understand that you will think on a subconscious and a conscious level more about drugs and alcohol than you think about anything else?
Yeah.
So when you leave here, listen to what I'm about to say. When you leave here, it might not happen the minute you drive out that gate. Might not happen that day. But it will happen very quick. where the urge, the craving, the want to get high or drunk will hit you like a sledgehammer. And unless you've done everything you can to put yourself in, I mean, you need to be praying and going to meetings and talking to people. And when that urge hits, you better call somebody and tell on yourself, because if you let that go around and around and around in your head, because listen, you cannot change the way you act unless you change the way you think. And when you think about it enough, you will rationalize and justify a reason to get high. And the only way to change the way you think is to act your way into right thinking. So when you leave here and that shit happens, if you listen to your brain, you're fucked. You need to do the opposite of what you need to call somebody and say, tell me what to do. And you know what they're going to tell you? They're going to say, if you ask me, say you call Mike, what should I do? Get on your hands and knees and pray that God gets you through today sober, and then get your ass to a meeting. And then just say, Mike, I have no ride, I can't get to a meeting. I said, all right, now you got a phone in your hand, go to recoveryspeakers.com and listen to some experience, strength, and hope. And do that, and keep praying, and keep talking to people, and pray to God that He just gets you through today. And you'll get through today, and you'll say, you know what? And then you've got a sober experience, and then you look back on it, and you can say, you know what? I actually got through yesterday. Maybe I can get through today. And when you wake up in the morning, you get on your hands and knees, and you pray, say, God, just get me through today. Because that's what it took for me. That's what it took for me every single day, praying to God, God, just get me through it, please. I don't want to get high anymore. I don't want to, like, remember what you guys were talking about in Fred's group? They're talking about being sorry. When I was in treatment this last time, I knew I was the sorriest person walking earth. Because not only was I sorry to everybody, but I was just a sorry excuse for what I should be doing. Go ahead.
He will presently try the old game again, for he isn't happy about his sobriety. He cannot picture life without alcohol. Someday he will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. Then he will know loneliness such as few do. He will be at the end of the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. We have shown how we got out from under. You say, yes, I'm willing, but am I to be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum, like some righteous people I see? I know I must get along with liquor, but how can I? Without liquor, but how can I? Have you a sufficient substitute? Yes, there is a substitute, and it's vastly more than that. It is the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead.
Well, I want you to say that last one again, and I want you guys to really internalize it. Go ahead.
The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead.
And now I like the verbiage, I like the language they use in there, because did they say the most prosperous?
No.
Did they say the most funnest? No, they said the most satisfactory, which means you will be something. You will be something to your people. You will do something useful. You will be a part of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I don't know about you, but I promise the last 4 years have been the most satisfactory years of my life. Do you understand? Good.
Thus we find the fellowship, and so will you. How is that to come, you ask? Where am I to find these people? You're going to meet these new friends in your own community, near you. Alcoholics are dying helplessly like people in a sinking ship. If you live in a large place, there are hundreds. High, low, rich, and poor. These are the future fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. Among them you will make lifelong friends. You will be bound to them with a new and wonderful ties, for you will escape disaster together, and you will commit shoulder to shoulder your common journey. Then you will know what it means to give of yourself that others may survive and rediscover life. You will learn the full meaning of love thy neighbor as thyself. It may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful once more. How can they rise out of such misery, bad repute, and hopelessness? The practical answer is that since these things have happened among us, they can happen with you. Should you wish them above all else and be willing to make us use of our experience, we are sure they will come.
Okay. That was real important what he just said. If you wish this above all else, right? Because listen, here's what I'm about to tell you. People don't get sober because they need to or they have to. People get sober because they want to be sober. See, when you leave here, you have to want to be sober more than you want to drink or get high. Do you understand? Because listen, so many times people tell me, oh no, you ain't got to worry about me, Mike. My wife will kill me. I'm never drinking again. I'm like, that's cool. That's good for the beginning. But guess what? You stop drinking for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Guess what your wife starts to do? She starts trusting you. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, they start saying stuff like, man, I think he's got it this time. You know, I think he's doing good. And unless you work the steps and unless you really get unless you enlarge your spiritual condition, unless you take care of your physical, mental, and spiritual health, you'll drink again. That's what that's what the book classifies as a real alcoholic, or the alcoholic of the hopeless variety. What did I just say before? Our main problem is we can't stay stopped. We can stop for a few weeks, days, months at a time. We can't stay stopped. Go ahead.
The age of miracles is still with us. Our own recovery proves that. Our hope is that when this chip of a book is launched on the world tide of alcoholism, defeated drinkers will seize upon it to follow its suggestions. Many, we are sure, will rise to their feet and march on. They will approach still other sick ones, and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous may spring up in each city and hamlet, havens for those who must find a way out. In the chapter Working with Others, you gathered an idea of how we approach and aid others to help. Suppose now that through your several families have adopted this way of life, you will want to know more of how to proceed from that point. Perhaps the best way of treating you to a glimpse of your future would be to describe the growth of the fellowship among us. Here is a brief account. Years ago in 1935, one of our number made a journey to a certain western city.
All right, real quick. I just want you to pretend this is you. Seriously, pretend this is you. Because this guy went to Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, I don't know where he went, and he was out there checking out a business matter. And if this business matter would have came through, he'd have been set for life. Okay? It doesn't go through. What's that come to? Well, disappointment, resentment, frustration, depression, right? Because if you're anything like me, if I'm supposed to have this job that's going to set me up financially for the rest of my life, I've already figured out a way to take care of everything and fix it. Do you understand? I've already spent that money and figured everything out.
Right.
And then he goes there, and what happens? The rug gets pulled right out from under him. And go ahead. He's in the bar, just going, man, what do I do? Go ahead.
From a business standpoint, his trip came off badly. He had been successful in his enterprise. If he had been successful in his enterprise, he would have been set on his feet financially, which at the time seemed vitally important. But his venture wound up in a lawsuit and bogged down completely. The proceeding was shot through with much hard feeling and controversy. Bitterly discouraged, he found himself in a strange place, discredited and almost broke. Still physically weak and sober but a few months, he saw that his predicament was dangerous. He wanted so much to talk with someone, but whom? One dismal afternoon, he paced a hotel lobby, wondering how his bill was to be paid. At one end of the room stood a glass-covered directory of local churches. Down the lobby, a door opened into an attractive bar. He could see the gay crowd inside. In there, he would find companionship and release. Unless he took some drinks, he might not have the courage to scrape an acquaintance and would have a lonely weekend. Of course he couldn't drink, but why not sit hopefully at a table, a bottle of ginger ale before him?
Hey, so what did he just almost do?
Going in bar and
No, he almost.
decided not drinking, he did.
Well, no, he almost set himself up for failure, right? Well, I won't go have any drinks. I'll just go hang out and drink some ginger ale. I mean, this is a guy that's sober 5 or 6 months, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
After all, had he not been sober 6 months now, perhaps he could handle, say, 3 drinks, no more. Fear gripped him. He was on thin ice. Again, it was the old insidious insanity, that first drink. With a shiver, he turned away and walked down the lobby to the church directory. Music and gay chatter still floated to him from the bar. But what about his responsibilities? His family and the men who would die because they would not know how to get well. Ah, yes, those other alcoholics. There must be many such in this town. He would phone a clergyman. His insanity returned and he thanked God. Selecting a church at random from the directory, he stepped into a booth and lifted the receiver. He called to the clergyman led him presently to a certain resident of the town, who, though formerly able and respected, was then nearing the nadir of alcohol despair. It was the usual situation: home in jeopardy, wife ill, children distracted, bills in arrears, and standing damage. He had a desperate desire to stop, but saw no way out, for he had earnestly tried many avenues of escape. Painfully aware of being somehow abnormal, the man did not fully realize what it meant to be alcoholic.
Wait, and what does it mean to be alcoholic? I just told you guys.
You can't not stop.
You cannot not drink. Yeah, Frank, man, you're on it. To cannot not drink. Eventually, for some reason, no matter what, we lie to ourselves, fool ourselves. manipulate ourselves, and we drink again. And that's, see, the funny thing is, a lot of times people's definition of a drug addict and alcoholic is a lot different of what this book is. I told you what my definition of a drug addict was, right? Somebody who did drugs all the time and didn't have nothing. You know what I mean? To me, as long as you had something, you were doing good. You were kind of maintaining. But when you can't, when you are like what it said, the nadirs of alcoholic despair, bills in the rear, wife's upset, kids are fucked up. I mean, this is the shit that this disease does. It's a family disease. We all like tornadoes. Remember I was saying in Fred's group how if you're a drug addict or not, you're sucking the life out of your people. You know what I mean? Like you're doing damage. That's a fact. So that's what it's just talking about right there. Go ahead.
When our friend related his experience, the man agreed that no amount of willpower he might muster could stop his drinking for long. A spiritual experience, he conceded, was absolutely necessary, but the price seemed high upon the basis suggested. He told how he lived in constant worry about those who might find out about his alcoholism. He had, of course, the familiar alcoholic obsession that few knew of his drinking. Why, he argued, should he lose the remainder of his business only to bring more suffering to his family by foolishly admitting his plight to people from whom he made his livelihood?
So what was he do? He was embarrassed, right? He was embarrassed to put, you know. And here's the thing, guys, just so you know, you cannot save your ass and your face at the same time. So if you're trying to save your ass, you're kind of going to have to put it out there, right? Good.
He would do anything, he said, but that. Being intrigued, however, he invited our friend to his home. Sometime later, and just as he thought he was getting control of his liquor situation, he went on a roaring bender. For him, this was the spree that ended all sprees. He saw that he would have to face his problems squarely, that God might give him mastery. One morning, he took the bull by the horns and set out to tell those he feared what his trouble had been. He found himself surprisingly well received and learned that many knew of his drinking. Stepping into his car, he made the rounds of people he had hurt. He trembled as he went about, for this might mean ruin, particularly to a person in his line of business. At midnight, he came home exhausted, but very happy. He has not had a drink since.
Guys, so what did he do? What's that? He went and made them in. Hey guys, here's the thing. Do you think we're built to keep secrets? Has
Secrets
anybody...
make you sick.
Secrets make... And has anybody...
Keep you
listen,
sick.
how about this? You ever watch the show The First 48?
Yeah.
How many people do some crazy shit and then tell on themselves right away? Why do they do that? Do they want to go to jail? It's eating them up. Exactly. It's eating them up. We are not built... we're not built to like lie, cheat, steal, hurt each other. It eats us up. But like, we are not built to keep secrets. We need to get that shit off our chest. It eats us up. Does anybody in here not agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, good. I'm just trying to keep it, but that's what it does. I mean, the shit is like a cancer in a way. It just eats the insides of us. Good.
As we shall see, he now means a great deal to his community, and the major liabilities of 30 years of hard drinking have been repaired in full. But life was not easy for the two friends. Plenty of difficulties presented themselves. Both saw that they must keep spiritually active. One day they called up the head nurse of a local hospital. They explained their need and inquired if she had a first-class alcoholic prospect. She replied, "Yes, we've got a corker. He's just beaten up a couple of nurses. Goes off his head completely when he's drinking. But he's a grand chap when he's sober. And though he's been here 8 times in the last 6 months. Understand, he was was once a well-known lawyer in town. But just now, we got him strapped down tight. Here was a prospect, all right, but by the description, none too promising. The use of spiritual principles in such cases was not so well understood as it is now. One of the friends says, put it down, put him in a private room, we'll be down." 2 days later, a future fellow of Alcoholics Anonymous stared glassily at the strangers beside his bed. "Who are you fellows, and why this private room? I was always in a ward before." Said one of the visitors, "We're giving you a treatment for alcoholism." Hopelessness was written large on the man's face as he replied, "Oh, but that's no use. Nothing would fix me. I'm a goner. The last 3 times I got drunk on the way home from here. I'm afraid to go out the door. I can't understand it." For an hour, the two friends told him about their drinking experiences. Over and over, he would say, that's me. I drink like that." The man in the bed was told of the acute poisoning from which he suffered, how it deteriorates the body of an alcoholic and warps his mind. There was much talk about the mental state preceding the first drink. "Yes, that's me," said the sick man. "The very image. You fellows know your stuff all right, but I don't see what good it'll do. You fellows are somebody I was once. but I'm nobody now. From what you tell me, I know more than ever. I can't stop. At this both the visitors burst into a laugh, said to the future fellow fellow anonymous, damn little to laugh about that I can't see. The two friends spoke of their spiritual experience and told him about their course of action they carried out. He interrupted. I used to be strong for the church, but that won't fix it. I prayed to God on hangover mornings and sworn that I'd never touch another drop, but by 9 o'clock I'd be boiled as an owl. Next day, found the prospect more receptive. He had been thinking it over. Maybe you're right, he said. God ought to be able to do anything. Then he added, he sure didn't do much for me when I was trying to fight this booze racket alone. On the third day, the lawyer...
So real quick though, you heard what he said? God didn't do much for me when I'm trying to fight this. But didn't God put those guys in his life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like he's just kind of looking at it one way. Because here's the truth, guys. Faith without works is dead. If you ask God, please just make me sober, chances are that's not going to work for you. It didn't work for me. You know what I mean? But you can winding up in a place like this, or winding up in AA. Like God will show you the path. Are you willing to go down that path? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we just say, oh God, I want to be sober, just make it happen. And that's just not the case. Yeah, exactly. We want instant gratification. We don't want to do the work. I'll do anything to be sober, but I don't want to actually have to do any work. I don't want to make myself uncomfortable and admit my wrongs and go to some meetings. Are you fucking kidding me? Like I say all the time, if someone had cancer and we told them, you have to do the 12 steps and go to meetings every day and you'll be fine, what do you think they'd say?
They're gonna do it.
They'd say, I don't have to go to chemo. I don't need to poison my... You know what I'm saying? They'd be like, fuck yeah, I'll do it. But us, we have a goddamn disease that tells us we don't have a disease and tells us it's not that bad and says, you know what, I just drink. Mike does heroin and Don does crack, so I ain't like them. I'll be fine. Good. Thank you for reading.
On the third day.
I know. I'm trying to get something out of my throat. On the third day, the lawyer gave his life to the care and direction of his Creator and said he was perfectly willing to do anything necessary. His wife came scarcely daring to be hopeful, though she thought she saw something different about her husband already.
What'd she see in him?
He had begun to have a spiritual experience.
Yeah, and the surrender too. I'll do anything. You know what I mean? He was like, all right, fuck. He threw up his hands. I'll do anything. I'll do anything to stay sober. So it was almost like a little bit of let go. Do you understand what I'm saying? And he began to have a spiritual experience. Good.
That afternoon, he put on his clothes and walked from the hospital a free man. He entered a political campaign, making speeches frequenting men's gathering places of all sorts, often staying up all night. He lost the race by only a narrow margin, but he had found God, and in finding God, he found himself.
Oh.
That was in June 1935. He never drank again. He too has become a respected and useful member of his community. He has helped the other men recover and is a power in the church from which he was long absent. So you see, there were 3 alcoholics in that town who now felt they had to give to others what they had found or be sunk.
But do you see what happened though? How close was this guy going into a bar and drinking? How close was he to going into that bar and drinking?
100 feet.
Maybe I'll go drink some
I
gin.
can't say what.
But that's what, a hair. And he's like, maybe I'll have some ginger ale. And then he's like, you know what, let me get on the phone. And he got in touch with those 3 people. I mean, how powerful is that? If he goes in there and drinks, what happens? He starts the cycle all over again.
We'd never seen this book.
Well, most likely, yes. We definitely never hear that story. Go ahead.
After several failures to find others, a 4th turned up. He came through an acquaintance who had heard the good news. He proved to be a devil-may-care young fellow whose parents could not make out whether he wanted to stop drinking or not. They were deeply religious people, but much shocked by their son's refusal to have anything to do with the church. He suffered horribly from his sprees, but it seemed as if nothing could be done for him. He consented, however, to go to the hospital where he occupied the very room recently vacated by the lawyer. He had 3 visitors. After a bit, he said, the way you fellas put this spiritual stuff makes sense. I'm ready to do business. I guess the old folks were right after all. So one more was added to the fellowship. All this time, our friend of the hotel lobby incident remained in that town. He was there 3 months. Now he returned home, leaving behind his first acquaintance, the lawyer and the devil-may-care chap. These men had found something brand new in life, though they knew they must help other alcoholics if they were to remain sober. That motive became secondary. It was transcended by the happiness they found in giving themselves for others. They shared their homes, their slender resources, and gladly devoted their spare hours to fellow sufferers. They were willing, by day or night, to place a new man in the hospital and visit him afterward. They grew in numbers. They experienced a few distressing failures, but in those cases, they had made an effort to bring the man's family into a spiritual way of living, thus relieving much worry and suffering. A year and 6 months later, these three had succeeded with 7 more. Seeing much of each other scarce as an evening passed that someone's home did not shelter a little gathering for men and women, happy in their release, and constantly thinking of how they might present their discovery to some newcomer. In addition to these casual get-togethers, it became customary to set apart one night a week for a meeting to be attended by anyone or everyone interested in a spiritual way of life. Aside from fellowship and sociability, the prime object was to provide a time and a place where new people might bring their problems. Outsiders became interested. One man and his wife placed their large home at the disposal of this strangely assorted crowd. This couple has since become so fascinated that they have dedicated their home to the work. Many a distracted wife has visited this house to find loving and understanding companionship among women who knew her problem. To hear from the lips of their husbands what had happened to them, to be advised how her own wayward mate might be hospitalized and approach next when he stumbled. Many a man yet dazed from his hospital experience has stepped over the threshold of that home into freedom. Many an alcoholic who entered there came away with an answer. He succumbed to that gay crowd inside who laughed at their own misfortunes and understood his. Impressed by those who visited him at the hospital, he capitulated entirely when later, in an upper room of his house, he heard the story of some man whose experiences closely tallied with his own. The expression on the faces of the women, that indefinable something in the eyes of the men, the stimulating and electric atmosphere of the place conspired to let them know that the here was a haven at last. The very practical approach to his problems, the absence of intolerance of any kind, the informality, the genuine democracy, the uncanny understanding which these people had were irresistible. He and his wife would leave elated by the thought of what they could now do for some stricken acquaintance and his family. They knew they had a host of new friends, it seemed. They had known these strangers always. They had seen miracles, and one was to come to them. They had visioned the great reality, their loving and all-powerful Creator. Now this house will hardly accommodate its weekly visitors, for they number 60 or 80 as a rule. Alcoholics are being attracted from far and near. From surrounding towns, families drive long distances to be present. A community 30 miles away has 15 fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. Being a large place, we think that someday its fellowship will number many hundreds. I was written in 1939. But life among alcoholics is more than attending gatherings and visiting hospitals, cleaning up old scrapes, helping to settle the family differences, explaining the disinherited son to his irate parents, lending money and securing jobs for each other when justified. They are everyday occurrences. No one is too discredited or has sunk too low to be welcomed cordially, if he means business. Social distinctions, petty rivalries, and jealousies, these are laughed out of countenance. Being wrecked in the same vessel, being restored by and united under one God, with hearts and minds attuned to the welfare of others, the things which matter so much to some people no longer signify much to them. How could they? Under only slightly different conditions, the same thing is taking place in many eastern cities. In one of these, there's a well-known hospital known for the treatment of alcoholic and drug addiction. 6 years ago, one of our number was a patient there. Many of us have felt, for the first time, the presence and power of God within its walls. We are greatly indebted to the doctor in attendance there, for he, although it might prejudice his work, has told us his belief in ours. Every few days, this doctor suggests our approach to one of his patients. Understanding our work, he can do this with an eye to selecting those who are willing and able to recover on a spiritual basis. Many of us former patients go there to help. Then, in this eastern city, there are informal meetings such as we've described to you, where you may now see scores of members. They are at the same fast friendships. It's the same helpfulness to one another as you find among our Western friends. There is a good bit of travel between East and West, and we foresee a great increase in this helpful interchange.
Well, so real quick.
Spread.
Well, yeah, it's spreading. And now, what do we look at now?
Millions of people.
I mean, if you live even in Wharton or somewhere like this, there's 5, 6, 7 meetings a week you can get. You know what I mean? Like, there's meetings everywhere. So this vision that they had set out, like, it's grown exponentially.
I never imagined it.
Yeah, and they're talking about in here, they're talking
Hundreds.
They're talking about one night a week they set aside for meetings. I had to get so lucky. I went to 2 meetings a day. You know.
Did 90 to 45.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's so. We are very lucky. Like, we are so lucky right now to be in even a treatment center like this with so much resources available. Do you understand what I'm saying? Back then, they just looked at it. You know, like, is there not still a stigma today? How many people look at it and say, "Oh, he or she's just doing that because they don't know how to act"?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or why don't they just stop? Or what's the matter with them? Or wouldn't you know what I'm saying?
No willpower.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we're talking about year 2022, so we've come a long way. We've got a long way to go, but guys, there's no excuse. The resources are out there for you. Good.
Someday we hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at its destination. To some extent, this is already true. Some of us are salesmen and go about. Little clusters of 2s and 3s and 5 of us have sprung up in other communities through contact with our 2 larger centers. Those of us who travel drop in as often as we can. This practice enables us to lend a hand at the same time avoiding certain alluring distractions off the road, about which any traveling man can inform you. Thus we grow, and so can you, though you be but one man with this book in your hand. We believe and hope it contains all you will need to begin. We know what you are thinking. You are saying to yourself, I'm jittery and alone. I couldn't do that. But you can't. Forget that you have just now tapped a source of power much greater than yourself. To duplicate with such backing, what we have accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor. We know of an AA member who is living in a large community. He had lived there but a few weeks when he found that the place probably contained more alcoholics per square mile than any city in the country. This was only a few days ago at this writing. The authorities were much concerned. He got in touch with a prominent psychiatrist who had undertaken certain responsibilities for the mental health of the community. The doctor proved to be able and exceedingly anxious to adopt any workable method of handling the situation. So we inquired, what did our friend have on the ball? Our friend proceeded to tell him, and with such good effect that the doctor agreed to attest among his patients and certain other alcoholics from a clinic which he attends. Arrangements were also made with the chief psychiatrist of a large public hospital to select still others from the stream of misery which flows throughout the institution. So our fellow workers will soon have friends galore. Some of them may sink and perhaps never get up, but if our experience is criterion, more than half of those approached will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. When a few men in this city have found themselves and discovered the joy of helping others and to face life again, there will be no stopping until everyone in that town has had an opportunity to recover if he can and will. Still you may say, but I will not have the benefit of contact with you who write this book. We cannot be sure. God will determine that, so you must remember that your real reliance is always upon Him. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. Our book is meant to be only suggestive.
Hold on. That's the only thing I don't like about this book. That sentence right there. This book is made to be suggestive only. No, it is not suggestive. If you want to save your life and get a better one and do what you're supposed to do, right? It's not, no, do what the book says. Do what the book says. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Dunn? Do what the book says. Good.
We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us.
Hold on, didn't that sound like it kind of just summed up the 12 steps?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it's doing. It just summed them up real quick. Go ahead.
We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless and keep you until then.
Thank you. When it says trudge the road of happy destiny, trudge means to walk with a purpose, which means, especially in your recovery, if you are not walking with a purpose, if you are not grabbing a hold of this with the desperation of a drowning man, if you are not putting this before anything else, if you're lucky, you wind up back in a place like this. Do you understand? Listen to me. Fred said it before, I'm going to say it now. 100% of the people that do what this book says recover. That's a fact. That's why I said, I don't like it says, and you know why it said that too? This book is meant to be suggestive only. You know why it said that? Because we have such a goddamn problem with authority that if the book said, you better do this shit or else, we'd have been like, I'm not doing none of this. You know what I mean? Like, we're so damn hard-headed. But seriously, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. I ask you this all the time. Who in here believes that this is a disease? And everybody puts their hands up. And then I say, bullshit. Because if you, in my opinion, if you really believe that you have a disease that is progressive, incurable, and fatal, then you'd be moving a little bit differently. You'd be grabbing a hold of this thing. You'd be doing everything you could to save your life. Because make no mistake, this is life or death.
Yeah.
I promise you. And until you're dead, you're going to do that same cycle over and over. You're going to go on a bender. You're going to start getting high. You're going to stop. You're going to swear it off. You're going to be like, I'm never again. You're going to get a few days or a few weeks. You're going to get your weight up. You're going to get okay. You're going to do it again and again and again, over and over and over until you die. That's all of us, my friend. That's all of us. Thank you for letting me be part of recovery. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I don't know. Are you guys doing wrap up? Do you wrap up groups? Doing or not? I got the snacks in the back. Do the chores. Hey, listen. I don't care. I don't care what you guys do tonight. Just don't do what you're really not supposed to do and give me a hard time. And if anybody needs to make phone calls or favors or whatever it is, I got you. I love you guys.
All right.
Too.
Thanks, Mike.